Some philosophers write books. Friedrich Nietzsche, he took a hammer to the whole library. Today, we're going to dive into his all-out war on the very foundations of our world, the ideas of good and evil.
Nietzsche makes us ask this absolutely earth-shattering question. What if the concepts you build your entire life on, right and wrong, good and evil, what if they aren't some cosmic truth? What if they're just elaborate lies we've all been told? This is the core challenge we're unpacking today.
So, to really get this, we're going to follow his path of destruction, and then creation. First, we'll expose what he called philosophy's dirty little secret. Then, we'll get into the epic clash between two types of morality. We'll decode the will to power, which he said drives everything. And finally, we'll look at his vision for humanity, the Overman, who has to face one ultimate, life-defining test.
Okay, so first things first, we've got to clear the battlefield. For Nietzsche, this meant tearing down the biggest lie of all, the idea that there's some objective truth with a capital T. He basically argued that for centuries, philosophers had been, completely dishonest.
Now, this quote just reframes the entire history of human thought. What Nietzsche is saying here is that no philosophy is ever born from a pure, innocent search for truth. Nope. Instead, every single philosophy is a confession. It's a philosopher projecting their own personal biases, their own gut feelings, and their own deep-seated desire for control onto the rest of us and then calling it truth.
So the really crucial takeaway here is this. If every so-called truth is just a disguised power move, then there can't be one single, universal morality that applies to everyone. It's not something we discover, like gravity. It's something we invent. It's a tool that people create to serve their own interests.
And that leads to a really critical question. If morality is an invention, then who are the inventors? Well, Nietzsche looked at history and saw two totally opposite forces at work, creating two fundamentally different kinds of morality.
On one side, you've got master morality. This comes from the powerful, the nobles, the strong. For them, good is just, everything that they are. It's power, it's pride, ambition. But then you have slave morality, which is born from the oppressed and the weak. Since they don't have any real power, they pull off this brilliant psychological trip. They completely redefine reality. They look at their masters and say, "You're evil." And by doing that, their own qualities, like meekness and humility, suddenly become good. It's a total rebranding of weakness into a virtue.
And this brings us to Nietzsche's absolutely explosive diagnosis of our modern world. He argued that for the last 2,000 years, slave morality has totally won. He saw major Western institutions, religion, democracy, you name it, as champions of this system. They praised things like pity and equality, which he believed were values that actively suppress human greatness and deny the messy, powerful, chaotic instincts that actually drive life forward.
So, if morality is just a big power game, what's actually driving the players? Nietzsche pointed to a single fundamental force that he believed is the engine behind every living thing. He called it the will to power.
Now, it is so important to get this right. This is not just the will to survive. A living thing doesn't just want to be, it wants to be more. It's this deep primal drive to grow, to overcome challenges, to expand its influence, and to shape the world around it according to its own strength. It's the engine behind all ambition, all creativity, all of life itself.
And this drive, it wears so many masks. For Nietzsche, even the things we celebrate the most are just expressions of the will to power. Think about it. An artist imposes their unique vision onto a blank canvas. A scientist tries to control and organize information. Religion, for sure, seeks to control human behavior. He even argued that love has this desire to possess and influence another person. It's just everywhere.
All right, so if we're living under a morality that denies life and we're all driven by this relentless will to power, what's the way out? What's the goal? For Nietzsche, the goal was never to go back to the past. It was to push forward, to evolve into something entirely new.
He described this evolution in three incredible stages. First, our spirit is like a camel. It's patiently accepting all the burdens of traditional morality, kneeling down and just saying, "I obey." But then, the spirit has to become a lion. It rises up to fight its masters, to destroy all those old values, and to just scream, "No." But here's the thing. A lion can only destroy. To actually create something new, the spirit has to finally become a child, innocent, playful, creative, and capable of giving a sacred yes to life and forging its own brand new values.
And this creator, this child, is what Nietzsche called the Overman, or the Übermensch. Now, this is not about a master race, it's a spiritual goal for you, the individual. The Overman is the person who has thrown off the chains of slave morality, who writes their own laws, creates their own meaning, and embraces every single part of life, the good and the bad. It's a state of constant growth and self-mastery.
And this brings us to Nietzsche's final, and maybe his most profound challenge. It's a thought experiment, really. It's designed to be the ultimate measuring stick for a life. A way to ask yourself, are you truly living as a creator?
He called it the eternal recurrence. Just imagine a demon appears to you in your loneliest moment, and it tells you that this exact life you are living, with every single joy, every pain, every embarrassing mistake, you're going to have to live it again and again. Not just once, but countless times, forever.
So, how would you react? Would you be crushed with despair? Or would you fall to your knees and thank that demon for such a gift? For Nietzsche, the whole point is to live a life so full, so meaningful, and so completely affirmed that you would joyfully embrace its eternal repetition. That is the ultimate yes to life. So, let's just quickly recap this wild journey. We've seen that for Nietzsche, morality is something we humans made up. We've learned that the fundamental driver of the universe is this will to power. The great spiritual project is to transform ourselves from an obedient camel into a creative child. And the final, ultimate test of a life well lived is whether you could say yes to living it over and over again forever.
See, Nietzsche doesn't really give us easy answers. He gives us questions and a hammer to smash our old comfortable ideas. He leaves us with this final choice, a question that really sticks with you. In a world that doesn't have any built-in meaning, are you going to follow the values somebody else made for you? Or are you going to create your own?